Like, think about being him. Like, he knows he's the guy. He knows what he can do. He's like, oh, this team has Anthony Davis, LeBron, and no one else. So that's like LeBron could play the point and small forward.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis could play the center. There's more than enough space for him to be a starter and play over 30 minutes.
I just don't think he has it anymore.
Should any team want Carmelo Anthony?
Blasphemous.
Yes, sir, Carmelo.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Control the Narrative, a podcast where we control the narrative that the media creates. If you're new around here, subscribe to catch our weekly podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you're a returner, a subscriber, or better yet, a Control the Narrative member, like this fine gentleman is joining the show tonight, we appreciate you a little more. If you do not know, we get the majority of our podcast guests from our membership group. So go controlthenarrative.com. Link is in the description. Or if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just go to controlthenarrative.com. Become a member. We have our merch dropping pretty soon, within the next month and a half. So cooking up something fire for members only. You can't buy this online. You can't get a pop-up shop. Members only. So with that being said, I'm going to bring on a recurring guest. He is somebody that has been around for a minute. If you've watched Control the Narrative podcast, you probably recognize this dude's face. Gonna welcome back Evan to the show. Evan, how you doing tonight, bro?
Thank you. What's going on?
Not much, man. Not much in Lakerland at all, actually. There's pretty much nothing going on over there.
No, of course.
We'll get into that shit real quick. Let me just kind of set it up where Carmelo has not been as involved with the Lakers as he has been earlier in the season, and there's just been a lot of shit going on in Lakerland with just a bunch of L's and a bunch of Melo not being involved in offense. And last night in Cleveland, we're recording this on Tuesday, being pulled after just 14 minutes and 4 shots and 5 points. So we can get into, the talk about the Lakers in a minute, but just overall, this season, we're not Lakers fans. We're Carmelo Anthony fans. So is this the least fun full Melo season ever? Obviously, you could look at the Houston Rockets season. He didn't play the vast majority of the year, but the seasons that Melo has played, do you think this is the least fun season as a fan you've ever witnessed?
110%, because I mean, right, last night, 14 minutes, 4 shots. It's painful to watch as a Melo fan. I understand if you're a Laker fan, you're happy they won, good for you. But again, that's not us. So, like, I would take watching Carmelo start playing with Quincy AC, Cole Aldridge, and Langston Galloway any day over this.
What about OKC?
OKC, he was a starter. He was playing. I don't think there was a single game until the playoffs where he got like benched for Jeremy Grant. He wasn't shooting, but he wasn't shooting like he was in New York, but he was much more involved. It's not even close.
Yeah. I just bring that up because some other people brought it up.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, compared to anything we've seen, this is unprecedented. And we were complaining last year about Derrick Jones Jr., Robert Covington starting over him. But it just doesn't feel the same anymore. And I think it honestly is more disappointing because we saw how much he was involved earlier in the season. So it kind of just gave us false hope. So now it's just he's proven that he can perform well. He's proven that he helps them win games. He was like the sole reason they won in Charlotte and Memphis. And it's just, supports our point even more that this it's just this narrative that just haunts him. It's like he shows up, he does his job. We were just talking about this before the show. He's shooting the best from 2-point field goal percentage he has in his entire career. He's been incredibly efficient, willing passer, willing defender. It just totally feels like there's nothing you can do whatsoever if you're in his shoes. It's really frustrating.
And the thing that doesn't make sense to me is Vogel throughout the whole season has praised Melo. He hasn't said one bad thing. He even said, we posted on Control one time where he was like, I love coaching Carmelo. So if you love coaching him and he's been producing for the most part, obviously he has bad games like any other player, but it doesn't make sense why he's not more involved in this team. And it could kind of go back into, do they need a guy like Melo? But we'll get into that in a second. But I agree with you, man. I think this is the worst season of basketball I've watched as a Carmelo Anthony fan in terms of they're not winning games and Melo's not being involved. So in OKC, they were winning some games and Melo, he wasn't involved as the Knick days, obviously, but he was still semi-involved. And like we were, complaining back then, I'm sure, of like, yo, fuck this, like they have to give him the ball more. Then he went to Houston, and that whole shit happened. And then at Portland that first season, and we'll get into the Portland thing. But that last season, it is what it is. But when they had Lillard out, CJ out, Nurk out, guys like that, they at least let Melo be the guy then. In LA, when LeBron's out, AD's been out for how long? And we're like, okay, cool. Melo and AD play similar positions. Melo can take some of those shots. And he hasn't. He has not seen an increase in field goal attempts. He has not seen an increase in minutes. None of that. So it's frustrating. And again, like I said, the most frustrating thing is that they're not winning. So if they were winning games and Melo was, playing 15, 20 minutes a game, as Melo fans, we can say some shit. But as the Lakers, as Frank Vogel, as Rob Pelinka, you can't say anything. So that combo of not winning games and also Melo not being involved, it's like I literally don't watch Laker games anymore unless Melo's in the game. Like I have it muted.
It's not good basketball.
It's not. You're right. Yeah,
watching
you're right.
Talen Horton-Tucker be a ball stopper at 21 years old, then averaging 8 points on 40% shooting. What is there to watch? It's not entertainment.
Yeah. It's frustrating, man. And again, everybody had high hopes entering the season from, Melo's going to get better looks from LeBron and the Lakers going to be good. And, we talked right before the show how, from day one, I was like, fuck this. And it wasn't because of, I didn't think he was going to be shut out of the offense and they were going to lose. It was like, all right, even if they win, he's not going to be as involved. And now to have both combine and come together, it's like, this shit fucking sucks. It's not fun. And it's just the worst season of basketball I've had to endure as a Carmelo Anthony fan. And we've had some rough years, like you said, Quincy AC, Langston Galloway. But at the very worst, we got to see Melo do his thing and isolate and, go in the mid-range, on the block, shoot threes, all that shit. We're not seeing that, obviously, nearly as much as we used to. So it sucks. It just sucks.
And you've posted about it before, what the amount of guys that have been given an opportunity to what DeAndre Jordan started 19 games or something.
Yep.
He shouldn't even been on contract. He was horrible. Kent Bazemore, all these guys, they've looked at every single possibility to try to fix something. They haven't even considered involving Carmelo more, and it's just it's offensive. I don't know. I don't even know how to interpret it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just weird. It makes me think of this ghost around him. It's just so analogous to Portland when the first year he was proven scorer. He played so well. He saved their playoff hopes. He played as well as you could have asked for someone not playing for a year at 35 or whatever. And then what do? Next season, thank you for your service. Go to the bench. This season, balling out, wins in Charlotte, wins in Memphis. Thank you for scoring over 20 points out of for 6 games in a row. Please stop shooting because Talen Horton-Tucker is not injured anymore.
It'll get to this next point, so fuck it. We'll just go into it.
Yo, real quick, sorry to interrupt if you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, but just wanted to let you know that we have merch at Control the Narrative, and it's pretty fire, in my opinion. This is the Pixel Melo t-shirt that I'm rocking. Anything from Cuse Melo to New York Melo, Hoodie Melo. On this shirt, we got Scapegoat merch, we got Black Ball merch, we got just regular Control merch. Shop CTRL the Narrative.com. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, beanies, stickers. Shop CTRL the Narrative.com. I think I got my point across. Go check it out. I bet you'll find something you like. Appreciate the support as well. Obviously, the merch sales help us fund these podcast episodes that we get to record every single week. So appreciate you. And back to the show.
One thing that I think has been a common theme in terms of Melo's involvement in teams and just the whole narrative and all that around Melo is that he takes these veteran minimum contracts every single year since he went to Houston. So OKC, he was still on that Knicks deal. Obviously, they traded him to Atlanta. They waived him, and then he went to Houston on that vet min. And I feel like, and this is just my opinion, and obviously I want to get yours after, but signing those contracts devalues him as a player because when you're paying a guy like THT $10 million a year and $30 million over the next 3 years, including this year, how are you gonna bench him, and how are you not gonna find out a way to get this dude involved in the offense and to be a productive player when Carmelo Anthony on a $2 million deal, if whatever he gives you, amazing. And if he doesn't produce, or, he has a couple bad games or whatever, it's like, all right, fuck it, pull him, because, he's on a vet min anyway. So it doesn't feel like he's a core member of the team. Do you agree with that, or do you think it's something else?
I completely agree with that. And not even just in regard to like the higher paid players have to get involved more. Think about it the other way. You look at the payroll. Oh, he gets bunched into what Avery Bradley, Dwight Howard, like Kent Bazemore, DeAndre Jordan. So like these stupid executives, they're like they treat them all the same. So exactly. He's getting the treatment as any other vet minimum player. And again, I don't think it's his fault. Like since Houston, like the NBA has treated it like a gift that they're letting him play, and he has all the money in the world. He doesn't care about the extra couple million. And like, of course, I completely respect that. He just wants to play, but I don't think who would think that would like play a role in your play, but it does. We've seen it.
Yeah. And then Russell Westbrook, for example, he's 40 something million he's getting paid. Can you imagine if he was on a vet min, how much quicker he would have been pulled?
He would have been waived like a month ago.
Yeah. And obviously, a big reason they tried trading him at the deadline, and a big reason they couldn't is because he's getting paid 40 mil this year, I think 45 million next year or something like that. Who the fuck's going to take that contract? And they're like, all right, well, we have to figure out a way to get him in. And it's just frustrating because the whole veterans minimum contract, he does that so that the team can add other pieces, but then they go, and again, THT, they re-signed before Melo and all that shit, but it just seems like it's having a negative impact on his involvement.
It makes me think of this like phenomenon called like the sunken cost fallacy. It's like when you have investment, a large investment in something, and like you've lost so much. They're paying Russell Westbrook 44 million. It's hard to like cut your losses. It's like why like gamblers lose so much money. You can't like it's hard to just, oh, you're paying this guy $44 million. Maybe he could turn it around, and like you just become so isolated to that viewpoint, and you can't just like let it go.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good point. And I just wonder if he was getting paid like 5 million or like 6 million or 7 million, if they would be treating him the way that they're treating him right now. It's like, all right, cool. Well, Melo, here's 14 minutes. Here's 4 shots. I just wonder about that.
So would you agree that like even though he's proved himself for 3 years, that just being blackballed has a major effect in his play 3 years later?
Yes, but I think that the contract situation, like,
well, that's what I'm saying. That's the only reason he's on a vet minimum. It's still for that.
Yeah. And like I do think there's places he could have went. Like I feel like New Orleans last summer wanted to pay him more. I don't know this. I'm not, claiming this as a report or anything, but I know that the Pelicans really wanted him, and I feel like they would have paid him more. So, if he goes to New Orleans, and not saying that we wanted him to go to New Orleans or whatever, and they're paying him 6, 7, 8 million a year, he's probably going to be a piece of that team. And that even if he has a few bad games or whatever, they're going to be like, all right, well, we got to figure this out because we just signed him to a $7 million deal, as opposed to the Lakers, where it's like, all right, well, he's on a vet min, $2 million deal. So whatever he gives us, cool. If not, then like, all right, he could just go sit on the bench because we're paying THT 10 mil. We're already paying Russ 40 mil. It's just fucking annoying.
Yeah.
It's just annoying.
All right, last interruption, because if you're watching or listening to the podcast for this long, you probably fuck with us. And if you fuck with us, you'll probably fuck with all the perks that you get from being a Control the Narrative member, whether that's access to our invite-only Discord where we're talking basketball all the time, or opportunities to join the next episode of Control. So whenever we need a guest, I go in our Discord, I say, yo, who's free? Who wants to hop on the next episode? And I pick from there. You get 20% off merch forever, and then you also get member-exclusive merch, all by being a member. Tiers start at $2 a month. So if you fuck with us, go check out a membership, CTRLthenarrative.com, and I will see you in the Discord. All right, back to the show for good.
All right, let's get into general thoughts about the Lakers lately. Obviously, they've had one of the most roller coaster seasons I've witnessed in a while, and we've witnessed some pretty roller coaster seasons in Portland too. But just what are your general thoughts about how they've played lately? Does anything pop out in terms of this player's been balling, this player's been sucking? I want this dude to play more. Just anything.
Like I've said before, I've watched more hours of basketball than like 99.9% of people on this earth, and I have never watched more consistently unentertaining, pathetic basketball. It's one like it's just they're just the way they have no offense whatsoever. It looks like they're warming up for the entire game looks like they're warming up for an actual game. It's ridiculous. It's just when it got to those losses against like the Suns when they were down like 30 in the first quarter, you could just see they dribbled it up slowly and just like chucked a three. And then of course like Melo has to just like submit to that play because he's been playing completely selflessly for a long time now. But when you come in down 20 and everyone else, Russell Westbrook's already taken like 3-point attempts, shooting 30%.
Yeah.
What is Carmelo supposed to do? Be a willing passer? So I think Carmelo's been shooting amazing this year. There's a lot of shots that he takes in these games when they're down 20 because he knows he's not going to touch the ball. He could be shooting like 48% from the field if they actually gave him the ball in his spots. I kind of veering off from the Lakers now again.
No, you got it.
It's just they have no not even will to try, because there's one thing about putting your heart out and just diving for loose balls. We kind of figured they wouldn't be doing that at their age, but you'd think they'd have some of the intelligence when Carmelo hits back-to-back shots, feed him again, don't take him out and don't pass to him. So you'd think that even if they wouldn't get all the physical stuff down like the Memphis Grizzlies with like the average age of like 24, you'd think that they'd have at least a little knowledge of how the game fucking works, and they don't. So it's garbage to watch.
Yeah, and I remember a big thing coming into the season was, well, Russ's IQ, it's not as bad as people say, and he has high IQ, and LeBron has high IQ, and all these veterans, well, they're gonna know what to do. It hasn't really come to light. Like, we haven't seen smart basketball in terms of what, of course, a team is not going to try 48 minutes as hard as they can the entire game, but there's spurts where you're like, all right, let's not let this get to 20. All right, we're at 10 right now. Let's cut this to 5 before halftime if there's a minute left, 2 minutes left. And it just doesn't seem like this Lakers team knows. And to your point with the whole Melo, if he hits back-to-back shots, we used to get frustrated in Portland where he would hit 2-3 shots in a row and then miss one. And they would keep going to him. And then he would miss one, and then they wouldn't give him the ball for the rest of the half. Here in LA, they're giving him 2-3 shots, and he's hitting 2-3 shots in a row. And they're just not going back to him.
That is 100% true. I didn't even think about that comparison, but I remember we'd get frustrated. But you're right. I'm not going to lie. We watched like 2 years of Portland. I don't think there was a single time when he hit a good shot that the next possession wasn't a Melo post up. Even though they didn't incorporate him enough as they should have, like we said, they always honored that. They gave him the ball when he was hitting shots. There is no sort of respect. Exactly. They don't treat him at all. You wouldn't, if anyone came in to watch the Lakers, you would have no idea that this guy was the 9th best scorer of all time, shooting efficiently, doing what he's supposed to do. He is given no respect whatsoever. Avery Bradley is given more respect than him on this team.
And this is all for everybody who's like, oh, but LeBron's on the team. He's going to make sure his brother Carmelo is good. This is all with LeBron James, who obviously has a huge influence on what the Lakers do. And, I was talking to my brother, and he's a big LeBron fan. I was like, yeah, well, if Carmelo is LeBron's brother, then why did he not, do something or say something when Melo's pulled after 14 minutes? I'm like, fair enough. He's not going to go up to Vogel in the middle of the fucking game and be like, yo, put Melo in. But at the very least, stick up for him, like after the game, or, and again, I'm not saying for him to go on the post-game mic and be like, Melo should have played more minutes or whatever, but stick up for him, because this has happened over and over again, and not 14 minutes, but just Melo playing 25 minutes and getting 7 shots. It's like, what are we doing, bro? Is he literally just out there to space the floor and that's it? But real quick, what I wanted to talk about with the Lakers play, in my opinion, is Wenyen Gabriel. I think that he is exactly what this team needs right now in terms of a dude who's going to try. Number one, it's crazy that we're saying this on March 22nd when the playoffs are literally 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away. But he's somebody who actually tries, and that's something they need on the court right now. He's a guy who specifically tries on defense, which is crazy. You've seen clips and clips of LeBron not even in the screen trying on defense. He's in the other half of the court when the Lakers are defending. And I just wonder about that because, and I'm not saying that they're right to cut Melo's minutes or not involve him or anything, but just look at a team like the Knicks who would die to have a go-to scorer. Like Derrick Rose has been out. the Knicks have really struggled because of that, because they don't have anybody that can consistently create their own shot. And the Lakers have a couple of guys. Obviously, LeBron, Anthony
Malik.
Davis when he's healthy. Who else?
Malik Monk.
Malik Monk for sure. As much as we want to, talk shit about them, Russ and THT can create their own shots consistently. Not saying they're good shots, but they can create shots.
They certainly can create them.
They can create them. And, obviously we know Melo can do that too, but they're not utilizing it. And I just feel like a team like the Knicks would die to have somebody like that. And again, the Knicks aren't the defensive team they were last year, and they've fallen off in pretty much every category since last season. But to have a guy who they can throw the ball to and be like, hey, get us a bucket would be huge. And the Lakers, I don't know if they need that, and they need a guy like Wenyen Gabriel. So again, not justifying anything that the Lakers have done whatsoever, but that's been something that I've been checking out where it's like, damn, the Lakers don't need Melo as much as, LeBron said when he's like, yo, Melo, the time is now. We need you. For what? To play 14 minutes and get 4 shots? Like, you don't really need him. And again, shit has changed over the last 6-7 months, whatever it's been. But that's just something where I'm like, damn, Wenyen Gabriel fits this team way more than Melo does.
And it sucks because he really would have fit in that team with KCP, Kyle Kuzma, Alex Caruso. That's a team that would need someone like Melo.
Yeah.
He would just have like the Markieff Morris spot, but make it 10 times better.
Exactly.
So you're completely right. I didn't really think about that aspect also. It's just you can tell if you're watching the games. It's obvious I don't think they'd be upset if he was out for the year. I don't think they'd think that would impact their season. And I guess it's almost, in a way, it's almost relieving the Knicks are as bad as they are this year, because we don't have to spend the rest of our lives saying, what if he went to New York and made this playoff run? Because even if Carmelo was on the Knicks this year, it wasn't changing. They're horrible. But you couldn't say it better than you just did.
Yeah. We quickly touched upon it. The Portland days. It's something that I've been thinking about lately, where I don't think when we were in it, maybe the first season, but especially last season, I don't think anyone would have been like, damn, I'm really going to miss these Portland days. I don't think anybody would have, as a Carmelo Anthony fan, I don't think anybody would have said that, but I've been missing them. So I want to hear from you first, just how much you miss them, if at all, the Portland days.
Well, like you said, first year and second year, they're totally different entities. You got to handle them one by one. The first year was incredible. We were coming off. It's all about like relativity, right? Like we're saying, like he's coming off not playing for a year, and then what he's starting playing 30 plus minutes a night, getting ISO looks. It was. I'm completely satisfied with the first year. I don't think there's a day we say like we don't say that he could have played more, he could have shot more, but we were content. We were happy with that year. And last year, of course, kind of ridiculous, playing Derek Jones Jr. more minutes than him. Stuff like that. CJ McCollum. Yeah, CJ McCollum not passing him the ball 5 possessions in a row wide open. But still, like you said, there was clearly this respect. Like I know we always hear like what players are friends with who in the media. You can look at the relationship on the court of LeBron and Melo and compare it to Dame and Melo, and you just see night and day difference of like, well, of course Lillard's younger and not like arguably the greatest or second greatest player of all time. So he just has so much respect for Melo, and he treated him that way. LeBron, I'll always feel like LeBron treats Carmelo as like his little brother that he's doing a favor for. Agreed. By letting him be on his team. Lillard looked up to Melo. He respected him, and that's the whole thing of respect. When he made a shot, they're like, yo, this dude's a rhythm scorer. This is how he scores. This is how he's most efficient. We're going to give him the ball in the post next possession, see what he can do. And in that sense, I miss it so much. Lillard, I really miss him.
Yeah. And like it was, LeBron's been putting up 50 points here and there twice over that week span, which it's been insane. Obviously, anybody doing that shit is insane. Doing that at fucking 37 is also insane. But, also just watching Lillard, man, like the threes he was shooting and the way he would just corral his team to just come back and just lift them up instead of yelling at people like LeBron does. And, there's certain ways of leadership, of course. Some people need certain types, some people need other types. But the way Lillard led by example, talking about this whole Dame and LeBron thing, was way more respectable, in my opinion, than LeBron, especially when LeBron isn't trying defensively either. And he's out there yelling at dudes for not boxing out and getting the rebound. Fair. If you were trying, if you were going all out, say whatever the hell you want because your teammates have to step up to that. But when you're not and then you're yelling at people, you lose respect doing shit like that, in my opinion. But to your point about all the Portland shit and, last year we all know about that first year and how fun those bubble Blazers were and, Melo winning player of the week within 2 weeks of coming back from being out a year. And I think you'll get into that in a few minutes. I don't want to step on your toes there, but it is just night and day, like between that first season and second season, but also that second season and then this season where, again, Melo hits a few shots in a row. They're going to go to him at least until he misses, and then they're going to be like, all right, give us the ball back, which, again, we all did not like, but at least they fucking did that versus him hitting 2 threes and shit. So, man, it was just something about those Blazers teams with Dame and just the cohesiveness that the whole team had, it felt like. And they didn't play like a defense, just like this Lakers team did, which is fair enough. But it was they tried outgunning and outscoring teams versus this Lakers team where you can't defend anybody either, but you're not even going to try to outscore people.
They just feel like they're surviving.
It's crazy. It's like, again, this whole stat line that you brought up about players who have started more games than Carmelo Anthony this year on the Lakers. DeAndre Jordan, Kent Bazemore, Trevor Ariza, Wayne Ellington, Dwight Howard, Taylor Horn Tucker, Stanley Johnson, Austin Reeves, and Avery Bradley. And people are going to be like, well, he's not a center. Why would he play center? He's not a shooting guard, which is fair enough, obviously. Fair enough. They play different positions. But at the end of the day, what that means is that they tried a lot of shit. And to your point, the one thing that they haven't tried was start Melo. Fuck starting him and all that shit, but just getting him more fucking involved, man. And that's what I really miss about the Portland days when I was thinking about that, was he was involved in that team. They would go to him. If Lillard was hot, they would still go to Melo here and there. If LeBron's hot, everybody's standing in the corner and LeBron's doing his thing. And, I just miss those Portland days where he was a part of the team. And the LA span early in the year when, he was scoring 29 and doing shit like that, of course he went off and of course he was a part of the team, but it still, to me, didn't feel like, he was one of the guys. Like, it was always, the Lakers big three. And like they would say shit about, the Blazers with CJ and Dame, the backcourt and shit, which is fair enough. But it just felt like he was a real part of the team. And like you said, they respected him and they gave him the ball when he made a shot or two and just all these things. And it's just went downhill so quick in LA that it sucks.
Yeah, and again, like I said, the difference between Portland years. The first year, I wouldn't say he felt like a major part of the team last year. He did kind of feel like he was kind of thrown in with the others. But comparing first Portland year to this, like Portland, he was like one of the guys, like you said. Yeah. He was just he was like one of the faces of the team for like 100%. And like, yeah, now he's just like, what separates him aside from being significantly better at basketball? What separates him from Avery Bradley and Kent Bazemore? Like the salaries are the same, like the looks on offense are the same. He's just one of those guys now. And like I just keep saying again and again, I don't understand it because he didn't earn this role. He wasn't doing anything wrong. And the way that he went from just playing so well to this, it's just, we could just talk about it, but it's never going to make sense.
Yeah, you're right. And when the whole like earning the role and shit like that, where again, it goes back to the whole narrative, and that's why control is what it is, because there's always been this fucking narrative about Melo where he needs to take a backseat. He steps into OKC after being an all-star every single year in New York. You're going to come off the bench? For what? Like, why is he going to come off the bench? Then in Houston, he does it. 10 games? No, Melo, it's all good. It didn't work out. Your services are no longer needed. In Portland, they bring him back like, hey, we want you to start, and here's what we're going to do. He's like, let's go. The next year, hey, we want you back, but, there's a chance you might come off the bench. All right, you know what? If that's what's best for the team, fine. And it never made sense.
Oh, and let's not forget they didn't reach out to him last summer for a new deal at all.
Great point. And then, not thank God that they didn't, because they're a dumpster fire, but and you could go back and forth about this when people are like, well, at least he would have gotten shots and been the man, but I think they would have traded him at the deadline and he would have went to a contender and shit. But
it would have been better, arguably, if he was.
Yeah, for sure. But man, I just asked this question because I've been thinking about the Blazer days lately, and of course we fucking dream about the Nuggets and the Knicks days and shit. But I just asked for him to be a starter and just be involved with the team. And again, it's not like we're asking or we're pleading for a dude who sucks at basketball to be involved. Like, yo, do this guy a favor. Like, he will fucking help your team if you let him, and they're just not letting him. So
Yeah, and that's the part that's confusing because like there's evidence. You see his numbers, you watch him on the court, and yeah, for all the nerds like we talk about, his plus minus is generally the highest on the team.
yep.
I mean, it's not hard when like the starters are like a -20 after like 4 minutes. He's not part of it, but like there's so many teams that could use him. It's ridiculous. Like who's the starting power forward on Denver right now? What, like JaMychal Green or Jeff Green?
So,
It's one of the two. Either Jay Green's. He's how much better is he?
Jay Green
Yeah.
is starting.
And then other teams like, I mean, Miami has PJ Tucker's a great role player, and I'm not if a lot he works with cohesiveness a lot for starting units. I understand, but in in Miami, he'd have such a bigger role too. There's if they let him, I mean, who knows? I mean, it makes you think,
loves him. Spoelstra loves Melo.
yeah. It makes you think like what coach like. What scenario would this not happen? Because we've seen it again and again, and it's hard to believe that this wouldn't happen anywhere. But it's just
Where it wouldn't.
where
New York.
This year, I don't.
Taj Gibson 36 minutes. You think he wouldn't play Carmelo Anthony 36 minutes?
No, I know what you mean, but just strictly positionally, when their best play, I mean, I can't stand Julius Randle, but when their best player is the same position like this, because Carmelo's small forward days are over. We know that he's strictly power forward, and when you have like Mitchell Robinson, and again, Nerlens Noel wasn't supposed to be injured the whole year. I'm still gonna stick to. I think there's a reason he didn't sign with New York because there was mutual interest, and that's what
fucking LeBron called him.
I don't. The thing is, his son's in New York. I truly think he knew like the lineup because on paper, just straight up on paper, what team should he have a bigger role for?
Of course,
the Lakers. So why is he to think like he knows how good he is? We're just like the pessimistic viewers that have seen this happen. Like, think about being him. Like, he knows he's the guy. He knows what he can do. He's like, oh, this team has Anthony Davis, LeBron, and no one else. So that's like LeBron could play the point and small forward. Anthony Davis could play the center. There's more than enough space for him to be a starter and play over 30 minutes. And New York, they wanted to develop Obi Toppin. They had Julius Randle. They had two centers that distinguished themselves as really effective. So that's why I kind of have that opinion.
I mean, still, Obi plays what, fucking 8 minutes a game lately? Like, they are not developing him whatsoever. And I love Obi. And I believe in him. I think he's like an Amari type guy versus what they have him doing, sitting at the fucking 3-point line.
I was going to say, he's gotta either work on them or not take them.
Yeah, it's just crazy. But I don't know, man. It's probably a pipe dream of mine to see Melo back in blue and orange and shit.
Of course, I'm saying I want it. I'm just saying I don't see a situation where that would have realistically occurred this year. But what I was telling you at the trade deadline, they were talking about Julius Randle rumors. I was begging for a Julius Randle for De'Aaron Fox swap, both underperforming or De'Aaron Fox wasn't, but basically fringe all-stars. And then it would have opened up the power forward spot. I just had this whole dream in my head. Next year, with a good point.
Obi. Remember Obi for Sexton?
That was a while ago. That too. Like, but I mean, the Knicks are lost. I can't even. It's so depressing. They're just like, I don't see how New York can get their shit together for Melo, because as much as we want to see Melo on the Knicks, it doesn't make sense for him as a 37-year-old to join a still rebuilding Knicks team. If they're not going to even compete to make the play-in, they don't deserve him.
But again, last thing on this, it's like, what's the alternative? It's like the alternative is being on a contender and like having this type of role. It's like, fuck that. And again, that was my whole thing last summer, where it's like, cool, if the Lakers win a ring, like Melo will get his ring and shit, but like if he puts up 9 points a game, like, is that going to matter? If he puts up 7 points a game, like, is that going to matter? Versus like having a chance and like not at a championship, like going to the playoffs. And again, I genuinely believe if Carmelo was on the Knicks this year, the way he plays Taj Gibson and the way that Noel has been out a lot and the way that they haven't really played Obi Toppin, that they would be a much, much better team because he's something that they really, really need, a guy that can get his own bucket and facilitate if he's given the opportunity. So we'll see.
I agree. But at the end of the day, the Knicks, who are like 11 games under 500, as Melo, of course, would help them, but it wouldn't have prevented them from being a not top
Yeah.
8 team. So
Fair.
it is what it is. But
That's
it
fair.
does make me wonder about like all the other teams, like you said, New Orleans, and like I'd love to know what other teams had in mind this summer, if like who was interested in him, because obviously a lot's behind the like closed doors. We don't really know what's going on. But
Brooklyn, apparently.
Brooklyn, exactly. Brooklyn and like Denver, New Orleans. It would have been really interesting to see.
Agreed, Evan. Like I love recording these shits, but it's also like the shit sucks because we just have to like not have to, but we talk about all this like
What
bad
if?
shit that's going on, and it's like fuck this shit, man. But
Dude, it's therapy. It's just
yeah,
recorded therapy.
it is. Yo, Ev, before I let you go, you know this, but we allow our guests to control a narrative. So it doesn't have to be Melo related, doesn't have to be basketball related, doesn't have to be sports related, but I'm gonna give you the floor on this Tuesday, March 22nd, to control a narrative whenever you're ready.
All right, my narrative to control today is kind of two-headed. One has some good, rich Ben Simmons slander, and two, some Carmelo praise, as usual. When Ben Simmons was traded this past month, I was astounded when I read the report that the 25-year-old guard who hasn't played in 4 months needed, quote, a few weeks to get back into basketball shape, when Carmelo Anthony, at 35 years old, having not played in professional basketball for 3 times as long as Ben Simmons, sitting out for over an entire season, was called up by Portland on a Thursday night one day, and then Monday or Tuesday, we can't even remember, was starting playing over 30 minutes, but a 24-year-old hasn't been practicing, ready to be on a contender. It just shows one, Ben Simmons' lack of caring about basketball. It fits the whole narrative that he doesn't care. He hasn't practiced his shooting. So some people try to be like an apologist for it, and they're like, no, that's not what his game needs. Obviously, that's what his game needs. Like, you can't be a guy who takes up the ball at the top of the key and have that sort of spacing. But if you're not in basketball shape as a 24-year-old not playing basketball, just it speaks wonders of what you are as a player. And then it shows how dedicated Carmelo is and how easy a player he is to root for. Like, I think a lot of us here, we didn't realize how lucky we got when obviously we became these super fans for him as solely as a player, but we got really lucky what we've seen him like outside the 48 minutes of just like being an activist, social justice leader, being a dedicated like worker, and just someone who's just like the epitome of perseverance. So it just makes me, again, when I see things like this, it makes me appreciate more the guy that we're rooting for.
Man, shitting on Ben Simmons while also praising Melo, that's good shit right there. I like that a lot.
That's how I do
it. Good shit, Evan. That was a good one. I couldn't wait to hear that one because you gave me a little preview before the show, but that was good shit. Yo, Evan, I appreciate you again and always for hopping on here.
I appreciate you having me.
Melo, and I bet we'll talk again real soon. Hopefully, next time it'll be a Knicks season preview with Melo on the team. Speaking
Would
of
be
that,
a dream come true. I'll see you in the garden.
Word, Evan. Appreciate you, bro.
See ya.
Peace, man.